Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, musicians, and comedians that perform here and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what makes our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Don Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers. I'm thrilled to have you join us today as we delve into the heart and soul of a truly remarkable establishment that has been making waves in the Shenandoah Valley and beyond. Our guests today are none other than the driving force behind Stablecraft Virginia Farm Brewery, the one and only Craig Nargi. And also we have Tony the Beer Guy. He is the head brewer here at Stablecraft. From their beer garden style service to their farm fresh menu, Stablecraft offers more than just beverages. It offers a sense of community, a connection to the land, and a place where families can make memories. Voted Best Patio Dining, Best Brewery, Best Cidery, and Brewery of the Year, Stablecraft is more than an agro-pub-style brewery restaurant. It's a destination with family-friendly surroundings, an inviting outdoor bar, on-site lodging, and private event spaces. It's no wonder this establishment has garnered such acclaim. So whether you're a beer enthusiast, a foodie, a traveler seeking unique experiences, or simply curious about the magic that happens when innovation meets tradition, today's episode promises to treat your senses and your curiosity. Without further ado, let's dive into the world of craft brewing, farm fresh cuisine, and the captivating journey of Stablecraft Virginia Farm Brewery with our esteemed guests, Craig Nargi and Tony the Beer Guy. Welcome to the show, Craig and Tony. It's great to have you both on today.
It's really great to be here. Thank you. That's a heck of an introduction that you gave there. I'm going to have to work harder to come up with more things to do here.
You bet.
Thank you for having us. I am super stoked to be here today and get to talk about beer. So this is really exciting.
Yes, it is so exciting. I am so excited to be here and to have you both on the show. I have been really looking forward to this. And as I understand it, Stablecraft Brewing is a fresh chapter in an ongoing entrepreneurial story that began with the founding of Hermitage Hill Farm and Stables in 2006. Craig, can you take us back to the very beginning and tell us what inspired you to start the farm and then later add on Stablecraft Brewing?
Started as a chef. Spent my career working in culinary arts, several resorts up and down the East Coast. And we ended up with a restaurant here, married a young lady from Stanton, Virginia, and it kind of reshaped my career. And trying to do food to learning where your food comes from and connecting people where the food comes from in a place that you can serve it. And we put out a huge search, and one of our catering customers found what was called back then Waynesboro Stables. It was a 42-stall barn, Tennessee Walkers, huge complex. And it was pretty much empty. And they were very welcoming to have us come in here and see what we can do with it. And that took a lot of government work. We had to not only introduce agritourism in this part of the country, but become an advocate for agritourism. And then with any type of advocacy, you have to have education. And there's a lot of people that were thinking that, oh, it's just going to be another bar or it's just going to be a honky-tonk out in the middle of nowhere. And anything would be further from the truth. And if those folks that were the naysayers had known what we were really up to, they would realize that understanding farming is not what the rest of the world understands. But if you're around farming every day, you tend to think that farming is just day-to-day life, and that's the way it is. But nobody can survive without farming, and too many people don't understand what it really means to farm. And we're not trying to say that we're a dairy that's growing thousands of acres of corn and soy and milking cows every day, but we're a niche. And one of the things that we learned later on, 20 years into this, is that we do more farming on this little parcel of land than 50% of the farms in our county. And so that we never stop learning what we're doing.
Mm. Yeah, what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned so far?
Never assume your neighbor, your client, your guest, or even your employees understand the full aspect of what it takes to run a business that doesn't meet the standardization of what the world accepts as a business.
Wow. What would you say is what the world accepts as a standard for the business?
If you're not on Main Street, you can't be a business. You have to be where everybody else is.
Right.
And, a farm is a business.
Yes.
And anything that you do in exchange for money is technically a business, whether you're licensed or not. You could be a tradesman. You're a service. You're providing a skill. You grow something and you sell that. Prior to the country's existence, everybody did something to trade.
Yes.
Didn't always come with money. It came with sustainability or sustaining your life.
Yeah. That's great. Well, I'm excited to get into this beer, and actually I have been blessed to be given a beer, and I was wondering if you could hand the mic to Tony so he can talk to me about this beer he got to me. And can we just start with that? What am I drinking here?
So that is a Stablecraft Amber Lager.
It's beautiful.
I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it.
It tastes beautiful, too.
Lagers have become kind of my more of my strong suit, being like trained by a German brewmaster, learning all of like the process of making a good German beer. I've become very involved in the lagers. I drink them more frequently than anything else. That was a beer I actually worked on for a while. You think an amber lager, it's going to be a pretty simple, easy to make beer, but that has a lot of complexity to it. Mm-hmm. There's about 8 different malts that went into there.
Really?
All of them are from Germany. It has all German hops in it. Also mimicked the water profile from Munich.
Okay.
We did the same thing for our Oktoberfest, because trying to make those beers as traditional to the German style that they once were is what's important. Like brewing to tradition and being able to do it well is awesome. And you can really tell, in my opinion, how good a brewer is by their lagers. I call it the cheese pizza theory because I'm originally from New Jersey.
Okay.
If I go into a pizza place, I'm trying to slice a plain, because if they can't make a good slice of plain, then why am I there? Anyone can throw toppings on pizza. Anybody can throw hops into beer and make an IPA.
Yeah.
Lagers show a brewer's talent. So I'm glad you like that beer. A lot of time, effort, and love went into making that one, as it does to all of them.
So I say to you, thank you, Tony, but let me ask you some more about crafting beer first. It is crafting the beer and ciders, I understand, both an art and a science. And you've shared a little bit, but can you share some more insights into your creative process and how you bring innovation to traditional brewing methods?
So I like to just say I'm winging it. Whenever I get asked this question.
Tony the beer guy over here winging it.
Just over here
doing
winging
a good job at it.
Thank
Keep
you.
going.
So I look at brewing like cooking.
Okay.
I grew up cooking. I grew up in an Italian-American household, started cooking when I was young. And that's how I look at beer. So when I'm looking at how I make it, what flavors are going to be imparted by my different ingredients? If I'm using a caramel malt, what is that going to actually bring me? On the surface, caramel, but depending on how roasted that malt is, if I'm using something that's like a 120, which that's going to be a darker roasted caramel malt, it's going to be almost like a little bit of a burnt toffee, a little bit of more of like complex. So I look at what those flavors can provide and how do I get them there. So I pretty much reverse engineer every beer that I make. Mm-hmm. I start with what's the style, what's the ABV, what am I going for? And once I know that, how do I get there? So I go, all right, well, I'm making a pumpkin beer. So we had a pumpkin beer come out, our Fumpkin came out a few weeks ago. To brew that beer, it's like, all right, I want to make this taste like pumpkin pie. Well, how do I do that? What flavors are in pumpkin pie? How am I going to impart those? Mm. So with the grain bill of that beer, there's biscuit, there's Munich, there's all of these like imparting more bready, more character that resembles a pie crust. And then you put the spices in afterwards to get the spice flavor into there as well. But a lot of it, like you said, there is a lot of science that goes into this. A lot of what we do is chemistry, it's microbiology. I mean, we're dealing with yeast. It's a living organism. There's a joke amongst us inside the industry where we say that we domesticated yeast, but really yeast domesticated us because I'm brewing 310 gallons of yeast food and doing everything I can to keep that happy so it can do what I want it to do. So there is a lot that goes into it. I mean, it's very important. Temperature, it's going to change the mouthfeel and the body of the beer. pH is going to change that. So all of those things are very important when we're brewing. So like with that pumpkin beer, I added more calcium chloride because calcium chloride is going to give you a smoother mouthfeel because I want it to taste and feel like you're drinking a glass of pumpkin pie. Higher mash temp to fill out the body so it feels like you're eating pie. So a lot of the science does go into it, and that's really what kept me in this, and that I think has opened up my creativity. With making the beers.
I love that. To recap, before we ask Craig the next question, you mentioned there were 3 things that you consider. And in those 3 things, by the way, I would like for you to repeat that. But also for those laughers out there that may not know what ABV is, can you also expand on that? So what are the 3 things and what is ABV?
So I'm looking at what style I want to produce. So we'll say amber lager because you're drinking an amber lager.
Yes, it's very good again.
So with the amber lager, that's the style I want to make.
Okay.
So I know what that needs to be to hit that style. My ABV is my alcohol by volume percentage.
Okay.
So for that is a 4.5% ABV beer. So it's easier to drink. You can drink a couple of them. The body's a little bit lighter. I wanted to make it that easy drinking, like crushable beer, but more flavorful than like a light lager.
It's a community beer because it's not overloaded. You're not going to get all, you can't have too many of them in a course of time. You're going to get full, but you're not going to get, you're not going to be dangerous.
Okay.
I like to use the word community because it says we're being responsible.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So
okay.
we've got a responsible, flavorful craft beverage.
Okay.
That you can enjoy. You can have 2 or 3, maybe 4, have a meal, and we're not going to create a community event that's unfavorable to anybody.
I got you. Okay.
And when you hear brewers say crushable, it means you can just put them away.
Yeah.
They're easy to drink. They're so delicious. They're so easy to drink. They're refreshing. But we don't need a set of crutches or a wheelchair to get you out of here.
I like that.
Very safe. Good product. Very responsible.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, so with that, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm looking at what do I want my ABV to be for this beer? What's the style? And everything, there's it's the BJCP guidelines.
Okay.
So for competitions, if you enter any big brewing competitions.
And what's the BJ?
So it's the
acronym is?
It's the brewing judges. So it's what they use. It's to judge your beer. It's the criteria.
Thank you.
So with that, every beer that we brew fits into its style.
Okay.
For any competition that's going to use that. So when I'm looking, I'm like, okay, what is an amber lager? Why did I pick 4% ABV? Because 4% ABV is inside what we call specs of that style. Flavor profile for an amber lager is going to be malty. It's going to be a little sweet. You're going to get some caramel. Once I figure those 3 things out and I know what I need, then I start deciding how am I going to bring those flavors. Yingling is a popular amber lager. Very different than this beer. It's so much you can do inside of a style because there's so many ingredients to choose from. So that's why I go backwards. I pick where I want it to be, and then I'm like, all right, now how do I get there?
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Now, Craig, I have a question for you.
Well, we're going to jump backwards. I'm going to go backwards.
Oh, we're going to go back. Let's add to it. Let's do it.
Yeah, you were asking where the whole project came from, and I skipped over it and got very employee driven and very customer driven. And the answer was really, the truth is, when you work as a chef, you work all the time.
Yeah.
You can't teach, you can't train, you can't mold people, you can't bring them along. The education is so thirsty in a kitchen that you're just there all the time.
Yeah.
And the career in culinary arts, being a chef, Key Island, Wintergreen, Glenmore Country Club, Boar's Head Inn. I was the executive chef at Virginia Military Institute the first year the women were admitted. So I've been around.
That's amazing.
I've been food and beverage director of hotels and clubs. And when I jumped ship and got married, we started a restaurant in a shopping mall. And that's not a destination. So it's the old adage, people will go to a hole in a wall for really great food. Well, we were definitely a hole in a wall. Plastic lawn chairs,
wow,
plywood tables. I started my business with literally $500.
Wow.
And 25 years later, we're sitting on a pretty big project. But the root of it was you're so disconnected from your family and hospitality that we built an environment where the family was integrated into hospitality. And you can look no further than a farm to see the same example. Farmers are probably the only group of people that are going to work more hours and more days consistently than any other industry other than hospitality.
Yeah.
Hospitality will go home eventually. Farmers are 7 days a week. And having the ability for the kids to come up to the barn and see us. I used to call my two kids hay and water.
I love that.
When they got off the bus, their name was Hay and Water. When they finished their chores, their names went back to Jack and Emma.
I hope they listen to this. That'll be awesome.
Occasionally they would do this mad dash from the bus to the house, but they had to go probably about 100 yards in plain view to get by me. And they thought they were slick. They would run as fast as they could, and it looked like they were slow motion. And the most annoying part of it was I had to go down to the house and tell them, yes, I saw you, and you still need to be hay and water. And so one of the biggest days and the biggest smiles that you would get from them is in the coldest days of the year. You'd say that just go home when you get home, and we'll have everything done for you. So we learned to give the kids responsibility, but we also recognized that we were overdoing it at some time. But it gave the kids the ability to come to the barn anytime they wanted to.
Yeah.
Or when it was overwhelming for us, we can just go home. The commute here was 700 feet. and that could have been 10 miles. And some days it was just steps. And I think that's what made this project so successful.
Yeah, I think that is a great add to the next question I do want to ask, because Stablecraft is more than just a brewery. It's an entire experience. And I'd love for you to describe further the atmosphere you've cultivated here and how it sets you apart from other establishments.
Well, first and foremost, when you roll in here, if you're not awe-inspired just from entering the property, and you're actually coming in on what was the commercial entrance, which was the business entrance. It wasn't meant for our guests. The guests used to come in past a little fancy gatehouse and pretty landscaping and all this.
Ah, Craig's phone is dialing in. That's the charm of our podcast. We're doing live while we do this.
This thing hasn't rang in 3 weeks.
It's Johnny somebody.
Johnny Bevins.
All right, Johnny Bevins.
Sorry about that. I thought I had it.
Do you like Johnny?
Oh, he's great.
Okay, good.
He is actually,
Cheer that, Johnny. He likes you.
He's actually the neighbor.
Oh, okay.
He's the neighbor's son who I bought the property from my neighbor. So interestingly enough, we've become really good friends. The property speaks to itself. We try to capture and contain and maintain the core of what this place was. It was a horse farm. And, nobody needs a horse. And so from a viability standpoint of being of a property or a business, horse business is made up of training. It's made up of farriers. It's made up of veterinarians and fencing and all the inputs. Mm-hmm. So unless you're involved in any two of those items plus boarding horses or raising horses, economically it's very difficult. Somewhere, I want to say in the late 80s, the laws changed with the IRS where horses were no longer considered livestock. They became more of a recreational animal rather than a purpose animal. And that reshaped the horse industry immensely. And so many farms held on for a decade or more. And like this one, many of them didn't. And so this property, in the preservation of agritourism and showing people what it's really like, one of the most profound things, we did a wedding here one time for a soccer player from the Washington soccer team. What's that called? DC United. Had practically the whole team at DC United here. Lots of people from out of the country, lots of people from around the United States, just a very diverse crowd. And you would think that these folks had experienced a farm. They haven't. The most telling thing over that weekend was the number of people that never stood 6 inches in front of a horse.
Wow.
To experience an animal right there in their face in an environment that was friendly and facilitated the experience. And then, of course, when you give them beer, it makes it just that much better.
How many horses do you have here now?
Well, we started with 27, and we boarded 17. And there for a period of time, we would consciously choose to rescue 2 horses a year. And we would let them age out. It's a nice way of saying they finished out their life with us. And we operated with 4 or 5 of our own. We had a couple donkeys, which serve as protection animals. And then over the years with the brewery and the increase in traffic becomes a less hospitable place for the horses. And so we've been reducing our herd. We're down to, I think, 5 now.
Okay.
Yep.
And what do they do around the farm?
Well, they do their job every day. You go out there in the field, and you look at them, and they'll look back at you, and that's pretty much their job.
Okay.
They're
How can I get that job, Mike?
But they're pleasure animals.
Okay.
They are ridden. The donkeys still do their job. They keep things out of the fields. We have coyote problem. We'll have skunks.
Oh, wow.
And anything that gets in the field is not welcome, and the donkey will run it out. And so that creates a little bit of a troublesome focus for us because we're dog friendly. And so we have to teach people that a donkey doesn't necessarily know the difference between a canine, a coyote, or a fox.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Yeah. So if that animal goes in the field, that's at your own risk, and we'd prefer that didn't happen. So we encourage people to bring their dogs. We encourage them to be
leashed
conscientiously. They have to be leashed.
Yeah.
They just have to be. But they can go into the tasting room. They can order from the tasting room. And sometimes with the food business, people don't want to sit next to a dog, and sometimes they don't want to sit next to a canine either. And we'll just simply say, maybe there's a better spot for you to sit today. And most people are pretty agreeable to that because they don't want a dog to get up and shake and maybe put dander all over their foods. And so we're smart about the food aspect, and we're smart about the dogs.
I agree. And there's plenty of room around here, I think, that people can find a spot.
There's 6 bars on property.
Yeah. That's unusual in itself.
Very.
And we're going to get into that too in a little bit. I'm going to ask Tony. The Shenandoah Valley provides a breathtaking backdrop for Stablecraft. How does the local environment influence the flavors and character of your beverages, Tony?
I think it's just like keeping it traditional, making traditional beers. We've looked at using some local ingredients. The idea of making a cider using pawpaws has been thrown around a few times. Pawpaws are indigenous to this area.
What's a pawpaw?
It's a very weird fruit.
Okay, thank you. I was
it's
like, what
kinda,
is this, an animal? What's happening?
Yeah, it's a very weird fruit, but I've seen some brewers use it. So we've looked into trying to do something like that. For our ciders, we're using all Virginia apples. So keeping to the tradition of making it the right way with the apples from the area and all of that kind of stuff. But it's just making the classic beers. Is it just, at the end of the day, you worked all day, worked out on the fields, you worked on the farm. You want to just have something that speaks to you, that just that traditional, easy drinking beer that's going to just make all of the work you did feel that much better. Nothing beats having that, like, after a long, hot day work, having that just like perfect beer at the end of it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the beer for the people. I say it all the time. I'm not brewing beer for me. I'm brewing the beer for the consumer, for the customer, the person that's coming in that wants it. We try very hard to have a diverse tap list and make things that speak to the people in the area. And I think that's something that we do really well.
Yes. Speaking of which, how many different types of beers do you run at one time and ciders?
So right now, I believe there's 17 products on the tap list, 4 of which are cider, the rest are beer.
Okay.
Now, when you break down, 2 are sodas.
We ran into this whole thing where we're getting all these families coming out. You got animals. You got to be great. It's got to be family friendly, right?
Yeah.
But we're a brewery. We're a brewery. And people are bringing their kids and they're running around and they're like, what do you got for the kids? And we're like, well, we've got food.
No, we got soda.
So we said, all right, it's time to make soda. And you know what? We donate the soda to the 4-H, the FFA.
Oh, that's great.
We've got quite a following. And, you know, what's really, really interesting is we have plenty of people that, you know, don't partake in alcoholic beverages and they want to support a local small business. Mm-hmm. And when they come out, they're like, well, you know, we really want to try one of your beverages, but I don't drink alcohol. Here's your soda.
Oh, that's great.
So it's created such a following. It's really quite interesting.
Yeah, Tony, can I ask you about the flavors of these sodas? Do they taste like Coke or root beer or what?
We make a root beer.
Okay, talk to me about it.
One of them's a root beer, and I'm partial to root beer. I love root beer.
I love root beer too. That's what I'm saying. Tell me all about it.
It's almost creamy. It's like it's definitely sweet. It doesn't have as like sharp of a flavor as like some root beers have. It's real sugar. We use 100% real cane sugar in all of our sodas. That actually is used in our ciders as well. And we also make a blueberry soda.
Oh, that's neat.
And that is awesome. It's like just drinking blueberry juice. It's crazy.
Craig's getting excited. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's getting all chef on me here. It's like that. You get a blueberry and it wants to just punch you in the mouth, and it just says it's blueberry times 10, but it's not like coating your mouth with sugar, even though we use the real sugar. Yeah.
Real sugar is the best sugar.
But the blueberry, we've get email after email. Grace, you saw them this week. We had email inquiries from South Carolina. Where can I buy your blueberry soda? You know, so that tells you the world. That speaks in volumes. Now the real challenge is how do we get it to South Carolina?
And Laughers, you just heard a reference to Grace Mather. She is in the studio with us. She is their marketing and communications specialist, and she's been in here taking some pictures, I imagine, for social media and otherwise. So we've enjoyed her company here today. She's actually the big reason that this all got organized. So thank you very much, Grace. We appreciate you and your input. So if ever we want to send the mic to her, you guys feel free to do that. Maybe at the end when it's, hey, how do we follow you? All of that kind of thing. Craig's got something to say.
Grace will say it faster, quicker, and more succinct than all of us.
Just want to recognize you. Thank you, Grace. Craig, I got another question for you. Your farm fresh menu is a cornerstone of the Stablecraft experience. Can you tell us about your approach to sourcing local ingredients and creating a chef-inspired menu?
Well, first you have to have first you have to have cooks that are passionate about what you're doing. And so it starts there. it doesn't matter how passionate I am or what my customers are looking for or my guests. It is all about who is preparing the food. And so every day is an incredible challenge for who's leading the kitchen. Our chef, Ray, is a vegan.
Oh, that's good, actually.
It's incredible. And he's got this most glamorous seitan Reuben.
Oh, I love Reubens.
And if you tried the corned beef seitan, there's no beef in it. It's a gluten wheat product, so it's not a gluten friendly. But for the vegans, there's just like this cult following for what he's doing. It's incredible.
Great.
And it's so interesting because he won't sample certain things. So we have a kitchen manager that works below the chef. And in the buy-in there, below that, we have a guy that raises his own hens for eggs. He's doing heirloom tomatoes. He's bringing in little quail eggs and all these different cool things. And then on property, we have a greenhouse, and we're raising basil, parsley, and dill. And then we have thyme and rosemary, oregano, and mint outside. And all of that stuff is used internally. And then we grow peaches for the brewery, and we also use the peaches for, seasonal because they come and go pretty quick. And that's the buy-in. And then how do you make a great experience? Well, we're in the South. We have air conditioning in our kitchen. That's a big help. And then on top of that, we have all state-of-the-art equipment. So now we're able to teach, and we're not fighting our equipment. And you go back there to the kitchen, and it looks like a ragtag group of people. But at the end of the day, they're all tradesmen, and they're professional, and they're passionate about what they're doing. And that's the foundation of getting a good product out of the kitchen. And so that could be as simple as a grilled cheese sandwich, and it better be the best grilled cheese sandwich you ever had in your life. And if we didn't bore you to death with that, then
you didn't.
We're selecting.
Far from it.
We've got to select things that talk to our audience, and we're in a meat and potatoes community. We have a local area supervisor for our county that comes out. He's very supportive, great gentleman, and he said to the manager one day, "This guy needs to learn his audience a little bit better, don't you think?" And I said, "Well, what the heck does that mean?" And I knew what he meant, but it was like, we're craft beer. He's like, "Yeah, but they're coming for your soda, they're coming for your cider, and they do like your beer, and you do a nice job here. Why don't you understand your audience?" Well, one day I said, "What are you really saying? You don't have any steak on the menu. This is a meat and potatoes area." I was like, "Well, all right." It took me 6 months to develop a menu that talks to our local audience. And it's meat and potatoes. And what we did is we said, "Hey, you know what? You're going to go to that fancy high-end steakhouse where they dump a pound of meat on a plate and they bring you out a head of broccoli and a potato so large you can split it with a family of 10. And it just takes all night to get it. And they say, would you like to add the sautéed mushrooms to your steak?" And you're like, "I guess I have to." That type of thing. But, you walk into that same steakhouse and you say, "You know what? I'm not in the mood for all that. I just want to go to the bar." Since, we have that environment. What do they serve over in the steakhouse bar? Well, they have steak tips, and they have this nice grilled chicken, and they have some sautéed shrimp, and it's really simple. And they put butter on it. They dump it over the top of a big pile of pan-fried potatoes, and they serve it with a salad. That's kind of steakhouse, right? It's in a bar.
Yeah.
And we launched that after about 2 months of research and trial and error. And we're not looking back because we've never been busier with selling entrees that are complementing our beer. And the common denominator of everything that we do, whether you recognize you let in with this big introduction about all these things we do at this destination. And if you think about everything that I'm doing, whether it's a hotel room, a banquet space, whether it's my food, whether it's the soda, even the cider, all of it points at my beer. 100% of it points at the beer. Everything that you come here to do, we have people say, "We want a baby shower." I'm like, "Really? You want a baby shower at a brewery? What are you doing there?" And they're like, "Yeah, we love your beer. We want to have a baby shower there. If we're going to suffer through this baby shower, hey, at least we're going to have craft beer." So we're like, all right. So that's a good way to look at it. So what are we really doing? We're trying to teach you about our beer, and we want you to want our beer. And we want you to tell us what you like and what you don't like about it. And then we're going to take that information and we're going to just get better from it. Mm-hmm. And so everything that we do with all of these things, they all point at our beer. And that's the root of how we operate our business. And so at the end of the day, some people say, "Oh, you're just a restaurant." Well, we're really not. And if you really come here and you want us to be a restaurant, you say, "Can I see your hot tea selection?" I'm like, "Well, no." "Can I get a cup of ice?" "No." "Can you tell the chef I want an omelet for lunch today?" "No." "But, I really like that IPA. Can you tell me about it?" "Oh, yes, sir. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation about that. We got 6 IPAs on tap right now. We're going to put some in your car. We're not even going to tell you because we took your keys out of your pocket." And we're going to get you interested in our product. And then all of a sudden we have this following. We're building a brand.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're building a community. And that is what our goal is. So our naysayers, and I like to use nay because we have the horses here, and they can be kind of vocal about not being fed on time. But our naysayers will say, "Oh, you're everything but a brewery. You're everything but a this, but a that." And I'm like, well, when you see our stainless steel collection and, the 6 acres that are dedicated to drain fields for our brewery treatment systems, you'll realize that we're serious and we're into it and we're passionate and we want it. Those are our challenges. Those naysayers, they're our challengers. And we convert those people. And when we don't convert them, somebody up the road will convert them, and then they'll feel stupid.
I love that you have all this food here. It's about lunchtime, and to be honest, it's making me hungry. I got to tell you, what is this I have here, you say? Why, it's also locally sourced goodness from our sponsor, Preposterous Gourmet Popcorn, Shenandoah Valley's only award-winning popcorn. They are all about using local ingredients too. I'd say, have you all ever tried it? But I brought you some popcorn, and I am having the maple bacon flavor, which is surprisingly absolutely more delicious than I could have ever dreamed. What do you have, Craig?
I think it says, "What's the matter? You out of garlic?" I think they knew I was
Italian. Try again, Craig. What does it really say?
I think they knew I was Italian. It says garlic Parmesan cheddar. And the bucket's half gone. And Grace has left the room twice and brought baby bibs in here to clean my fingers.
And how about you, Tony? What did you try?
I have the Buffalo Ranch cheddar.
What'd you think about that?
Oh, this stuff's awesome.
It's so good.
It's so good. I can't stop eating it.
It's like crack cocaine for real people.
Can you say that?
Or PG-13. It's okay. I actually don't even know what crack cocaine is like. But anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Their kernels are grown right here in the Shenandoah Valley, and their factory is 100% nut-free. Preposterous is great for any gifting occasion, perfect for birthdays, anniversaries, and I notice you have weddings here, so wedding favors or literally anything. It is a perfect gift that doesn't even require you to know anyone's shirt, shoe, or pant size. Preposterous offers our laughers a 15% discount. Just use promo code LAUGH15 when you visit preposterous.com. That's PREPOPSTEROUS.com today and buy yourself some of this yummy goodness.
I see a beer and cider popcorn pairing.
Ooh, she would love that.
I think that would be a seminar, maybe a 3-day weekend. I'd have some popcorn pillows in the lodging.
That would be so cool. You know what, Craig? This has been such an amazing interview so far, and you've been talking about community, which seems to be at the heart of Stablecraft's success. I would like for you to expand more on how you foster that sense of togetherness and make your establishment so family friendly.
Well, first of all, we're going to have to just give a full disclosure. We're people too. We make mistakes.
Yeah, right.
We bump into the wall, we bump into the tables, and we'll bump into you. And,
I'm glad you did.
We're people. People make mistakes, and for some reason, when food and beverage is involved, we're held at a higher standard than say if I'd backed into your car in a parking lot. You wouldn't be as mad at me if I backed into your car in the parking lot, if I didn't get your food to the table on time. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because you're hangry. When you get hangry, there's no fixing that. The only thing that fixes hangry is food. And so we try to make sure that even though sometimes we mess up, when that food hits the table, it's going to be the best food you've had. So sometimes it takes time. And when you build community, it takes time. And
That's true.
Over the time of building what we've built here, I go back to my employees. I go back to my staff and my family. It takes time. Everybody has to learn from each other. And it's a contribution both ways. We don't know what you want. We know what we want to do. And a lot of times we have to marry those two together to arrive with what we're trying to do. And we find success by understanding what we've made mistakes in and where we can be better. But most importantly, it's at the heart of what we're doing. We're trying to just do the right thing for everybody.
I think you're doing a great job of that. And I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing. You know, it's not always perfect, and you go through the challenges, and that's true. That's part of the human experience. Is we're just not going to be perfect at everything that we try to do, but when we try, we're going to find out how much more capable we really are and what we can bring to this world and our community with our gifts and our abilities. I appreciate that about you sharing that.
This past February was a real eye-opener for me. I have been in business for myself. I haven't worked for anybody. Not a W-2, not a Virginia 4. Filed no paperwork. When the staff comes and says, "How do I fill out this tax form?" I'm like, I really don't know, because I'm not practiced at it, because I haven't filled one out in 25 years. We clocked 25 years working for myself, and that is a disconnect, but it's also an eye-opener that you're doing something right, because you have to read the tea leaves. And your customer is going to be unbashful about telling you what you're doing great and what you're not. And I think we've done a lot of good things here. And it's all rooted in having good people, having great customers, having great staff, and having the great experiences like this one today.
This has been a great experience, but I must ask, read the tea leaves. Is this a farmer's expression? Because I'm not sure what that means.
Sometimes,
I need some interpretation here, Craig.
It could be maybe a tea leaves, a tarot card, the crystal ball.
Okay. Riddles sometimes.
Yeah.
If we can get you to ask more questions like that, we're in better shape, aren't we?
Yeah. I'd like to talk about your event spaces and the events that you have here. Can you tell us more about that?
So Hermitage Hill Farm and Stables was a wedding venue. We were a premier wedding venue, and people would come onto this property and they're like, "Oh my God, this place is just a barn." And you had to walk through the stable to get to the ballroom. You had to go through a functional stable, and you'd see these people come dressed to the nines, high heels, beautiful dresses, wonderful suits, really dressed out. And then they walk into the barn and they get this huge frown on their face and like, oh boy. So we had to continue to grow and grow and grow. So originally we took the back half of the barn, which was 5 stalls, and it was the owner's wing, and we turned it into a banquet facility. So that was the first project, and that was 2006 to 2008. And we opened for our first wedding in 2009. And what we learned in the wedding business is that, it is their special day, and they want what they want, and you can't blame them, and we should give it to them. But sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes what they're thinking is not what they're going to get. And so the imagination without words is hard to deliver. And so articulating what the customer wanted is one of the biggest challenges. And, a young bride coming in, you want to make sure that it's a special experience. You want to go the extra mile. And before I opened this facility, I had already logged 600 weddings before we opened Hermitage Hill. And that was not necessarily doing the venue, but catering, working in the resorts. And being perfectly accountable for those 600. I've worked more weddings than that before I opened here. And then we logged another, an average of 40 to 50 weddings a year. And you say, well, that's 52 weeks a year. You must have one a week. And I was like, nope, we did sometimes 3 a weekend. And that's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable for the guest. It was uncomfortable for us. And we learned that beer was a lot more fun. And we kind of transitioned away. Never say never. We don't really push weddings. We're not asking to sell a wedding anymore. but we'll still do them, but we're not, we don't have any on the books. We've moved completely away from that. We see a lot of corporate event planners that are very interested in our beer. They want to find where our beer is somewhere else. They want to have a hosted event. They want to get a tour. They want to talk to our head brewer. They want to make beer centric to their event, their experience, and that's their draw. And so we have found that being a brewery is connecting a brand more than a wedding is. A wedding is about the bride, and a brewery is about the beer. And if we have a bride that's about being about the beer, then that would be a pretty good wedding for us.
I see. Now you have also some other event spaces on here. I noticed there's a cider house, and then there's another.
We have multiple spaces.
Yeah.
So we have 3 indoor spaces, and the largest one is the Saddleback Ballroom. Seats 200 people, has its own bar, its own restroom, sound system. It has video wall, it has its own patio, fireplace, and everything. It's really the exclusive space for big parties. We do murder mystery dinners. Hopefully we'll do some comedy shows in the future.
Yes.
A little hint there.
Love that idea.
And then, we've always rented that that's where the weddings would be. That's where our big Christmas parties will end up, the big social events. And then we also have the cider house, which is just, it was actually a pavilion where we stored hay because we didn't want to put the hay in the main barn anymore for the risk of hay and the dangers that come with it. And we converted that to a fully air-conditioned space, and it's largely used for beer cider events that are focused on their guests, whether it's a meeting, get out of the office for the week, that type of thing. What am I? Team buildings. It's right next to our volleyball court. We have a full commercial volleyball court out there, and then we have the farm store space, which has recently undergone some major renovations because we have a lot of our culinary guests and our brewery and cidery guests that want exclusive service. And so we created a VIP type environment.
Cool.
So we're calling that the Brewers Club. And here soon on our website, we're going to launch membership subscriptions.
Fun.
Yeah. And so you can join as a Mug Club member. And a Mug Club member, you'll get the first release beers, the first release ciders. You'll have interactions with Tony, the head brewer, or Alyssa, the assistant brewer. And the Mug Club, you get a bigger beer for the same price as the regular beer. We'll have once a month, we'll put out free appetizers for social gatherings. We're focusing on doing some beer dinners where we can pair interesting culinary, farm, local, fresh foods with our beers and come out and talk about why we chose the beer with the food. So that little space seats about 32 people, has its own bar, several televisions, so it emulates kind of that cozy, comfortable Irish pub.
Ah, yes, I love that.
But we're going to be real careful to tell you it's not an Irish pub because we don't have whiskey.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
Yep, all your Irish people are pounding their fist on the table right now.
I'm sure they are.
But it's super cool. It's very comfortable. It has its own private patio as well, and so we designed it because we have a lot of guests that want wait staff. And as you know, as a beer garden, you have to go up to the bar, you order everything at the bar, and you come and go as you please. And when you're ready to leave, you just leave. With the wait staff, you got to wait for your waiter to come to the table. You got to wait for your waiter to come back to the table. Where's my damn waiter? All that stuff. But in a club environment, you know what you're getting. We know you're coming. You have to tell us you're coming. You have to make a reservation through the system. There's an online portal. There is a fee involved, and that fee is 100% refundable when you show up. If you don't show up, then it goes to the server because we brought the server in. So we're advocating for our staff in that sense so that we can take care of them financially. So, whether you got run over by one of our horses or you couldn't make it to the reservation, we're going to keep that fee. That's kind of the underlying goal there.
Yeah.
But we're going to credit you when you show up. So if you want a reservation for 4, for 10, for 12, I think we cap it at 12. We haven't decided. We're still talking to the owner about that.
I think you might know him.
Well, there's been some debates. There's been some debates on there. It's like, do we really want to stop it at 12? What are they going to do? 13 people? We're going to say no. So there is that. We just didn't want to turn it into a banquet, because what most people don't understand about a banquet is it takes planning and preparation. You can't have 200 people show up and expect it to go well when you're ordering off the menu. It just doesn't work like that, folks. So if there's anything that the whole entire world of hospitality is going to tell you, is that when 150 people show up at one time, it's impossible to cook to order. It just doesn't happen. So no one wants to hear that. Everybody secretly understands it. I think there's this whole underground environment that thinks that's cool to show up at once. And we do the best we can with that. But for the most part, a banquet's a banquet, and a table of four is a table of four. And it's a lot easier when people are showing up at a trickles pace than showing up all at once. So that's kind of that reservation mantra. And then we've had people come to us and say, hey, what does it take to shut down Stablecraft? And I was like, oh, well, let me call the banker. Hold on. And they're like, no. We're not trying to buy Stablecraft. We just want to shut you down for the day. We want to rent the whole place. Oh, well, you didn't say that. And we've had people that they call that in the industry a buyout.
Okay.
We don't like buyouts when we're busy, because we don't want to turn away our regular guests. They don't know we got bought out.
Yeah.
But we are closed on Monday and Tuesday, so we do see buyouts on Monday and Tuesday, which means
smart.
Which means we'll open for you.
Yeah.
And we've done some pretty big gatherings, 300-400 people, where they get the whole facility. And those are pretty cool, because like we're in the studio here today, they've used the studio for that. We've had multiple bars open. We have all the games going. We have live tours going on the half hour, so they can go visit the brewery. We'll have a tour guide to take them on the sustainable tour, because we do a lot of sustainable things, which we'd like to drop in there. That we were Green Brewery of the Year 2 years ago.
Oh, that's really nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And so they get the full experience, and usually those events can go 4 to 5 hours, only because they like to trickle.
Yeah.
They won't all show up at the same time. They'll kind of flow through, and we found a great deal of success with those, both in accommodating what the management of that company is trying to achieve with team building and rewarding their staff, and it works explicitly well for us because we're prepared.
Yes.
And then we'll rent smaller spaces. Some people say, well, we just want to have an elopement. We're going to have 200,000 people for an elopement. Sorry, buddy, that's not an elopement. An elopement, full disclosure, an elopement is like 12 people.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. Because it wouldn't be an elopement if it was 50 people. That's a wedding.
Yeah.
But we'll do elopements. We have them. And they're usually pretty low key until they start snapping their fingers and waving the magic wand, and the unicorn comes out of the backfield, and the pretty horse and carriage that we don't have, and all that stuff. But when we get the beer girls coming in and they're like, I am getting married in a brewery.
Yeah.
Well, we can do that. Well, you don't understand, sir. I want to get married in front of your tanks. We can do that too. And when they're fun, it can be fun. When they're trying to do all these formalities, it gets a little weird. Gets challenging. It's not weird. It's challenging. It's just challenging because you don't know what they're thinking until they tell you, and they usually don't tell you till like 24 hours before they're about to do it. And that's the challenge with weddings. But so we have the cider house has its covered porch, and it'll seat 40 people, and then we have a huge covered patio here. I'm not even sure what it seats. I think it's 100 people or so. And then we have an outdoor bar that seats 70. And so people will say, you know what, we want to have our social gathering here, and we just want the outdoor bar. Oh, well, we can do that. And if they know what they want, and we know we can do it, it's usually pretty easy to accommodate people with that being said. But I go back to what I said before. It's about the beer. It's about the cider. It's about the craft beverage. And we're connecting that craft beverage that we're making to the farm. Then we've done our job. We've reached the people that we're trying to reach, and they're appreciating what we're doing, and we're showing them how it's done. And that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. And even for the smaller groups that are all about the beer, I noticed that you also have Igloos available, and I believe they are going to be available in November. This podcast will drop in September. So what can you tell us about these cool igloos?
So we're on our 7th year of Igloos. A lot of people say, when are you getting rid of those COVID bubbles? Excuse me, sir. We were cool before COVID. So they seat 8 people. They're heated. You make a reservation on the internet. They will cost you, we haven't set the prices this year. We are bringing them way, way down.
Okay.
Way, way down. And you make that reservation, you pay with a credit card, it's automated, it sends you emails, it reminds you that your reservation's coming.
Oh, great.
It's really cool. It's like booking a hotel room almost. And when you show up, they're going to get you a drink at the bar. The server's going to take you out to the igloo. They're going to get you started. It's going to be heated. People will bring their little AirPod type speakers, and they'll play a little music in the background. And usually all the fun and laughter that you can hear outside in the cold weather is coming out of one of the igloos.
I need to be in one of those.
So there's 6 of them. And you book them on the internet, and you get a credit. Just like we're with those other reservations, you'll get a credit back towards your bill. So it's incentivizing you to support our staff. And this year, after the holidays, we're going to trick some of them out. We're going to make one for Valentine's. We're going to make another one that looks like it's the Polar Bear Club. And we're really going to, I like to say, trick them out. We're going to make them so that they're like the rooftop bars in D.C.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So they'll be really cool. So they'll have some furniture in them that maybe not be best for dinner, but be great for like a cocktail party where you can get together. But over the holidays and post even into the first 2 weeks of January, we see Christmas parties. If you have a small office, just a little group of people, and they're absolutely perfect, and they usually book pretty fast. So we're going to open the reservations on those sooner this year than most years in the past, because so many people are planning ahead. We just wanted to get the offering out there on the internet sooner.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm really enjoying this Stablecraft Amber Lager over here, Tony the beer guy. I understand you've won quite a few beer medals. I'd like for you to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we've won a few medals. In May of last year, I stepped into the role of head brewer here at Stablecraft, and one of our taproom employees, who was a lead bartender at the time, her name is Alyssa. She came down to the brewery. She expressed interest in wanting to work there, and she's been my right hand since. She's my assistant brewer. She's fantastic, very good at her job. She actually does a lot of the cider stuff now. I turned a lot of that over to her. She comes up with the new flavors for Fridays, and all of that kind of stuff. But the two of us, since May of last year, we've won, I believe it was 10 medals. One being a Beer of the Year award that we got from the Brewski Awards last year, which is an international brewing competition that takes place in Michigan.
Oh,
The
yeah.
cool thing about that competition, too, is the judging is run by a certified Cicerone, but the judges are consumers.
Okay.
So it's the consumers that are going out and buying the beers that are actually judging your beer.
Okay.
And I mean, that's who we're trying to market to. That's who we want to drink our beers, the consumers, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So they were gracious enough to say that our beer was one of 9 best beers of the year.
Yes.
And I believe the peach cider was the only cider of the year at that competition. The Robot Cowboy, which is our New England IPA, it's a recipe that's very near and dear to my heart. That is the first recipe I ever designed, wrote, and brewed all by myself.
Really?
Won a silver medal at the Virginia Brewers Cup last year, which is a state competition.
Yeah.
We won a silver there and then a gold for that at the Brewski Awards as well. And because we won the silver for that, we had the opportunity to pour that beer at like a celebration of like the people that won medals at the governor's mansion last year, which was pretty neat.
That's sweet.
So yeah, making these beers has been really cool. It's a lot of fun. No offense to anybody else, but this is the coolest industry and the coolest job in the world. No offense to anybody else's career, but like if you're not brewing, what are you doing? It's the best.
If you're not brewing, what are you doing?
I would not change my career for anything. This is the best thing I've ever been a part of. But yeah, I had the opportunity. I mean, I have to thank, obviously, this guy over here for the opportunities he's given me. Because without Craig, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work with somebody like Peter, who's a German brewmaster, go to school, all of that kind of stuff, which has definitely helped me dial in my abilities as a brewer. Because it's one thing to be creative, but if you don't have the technical side of it, it's tough.
Yeah.
And I've definitely got a lot better as I've become more technically sound with what I'm doing.
Yes.
And with anything, practice makes perfect.
That's true.
So making all these different beers, getting out of my comfort zone and brewing something that I'm not used to. This Oktoberfest that won that Beer of the Year award. It's the first Oktoberfest I ever brewed.
Really?
And I won a Beer of the Year for that. Like,
that's amazing.
Took me out of my comfort zone. I took what I'd learned between my different certifications that I have, and the schooling that I've done, and applied that and made what I think to be a perfect beer. And my stepfather gave me a 5 out of 5 on Untapped for this one, and he doesn't do that lightly. So that's big. That's big up.
That's big compliments.
He drinks a lot of craft beer, and he knows what he's talking about. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And while we're talking about it, the concept of agripub, Tony, agripub, is intriguing. Could you elaborate on how Stablecraft integrates the farming experience into the brewery and what that means for your guests?
So I can go easy with this and say we grow our own hops. We can incorporate the hops into the beer. But I like this question because I think it was 2 summers ago, I had this crazy idea.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
That I was going to make a beer that tasted like a Bloody Mary. So having, at that time, I believe we were growing produce, so we had tomatoes here.
Right.
Which I incorporated into our mash. We had rosemary and thyme, which I put in the boil. So I used a lot of the stuff that we have here that we grew on the farm to put into this beer. And that, it was a small batch. We only did the one small batch of it, which was like 15 gallons. But man, was that a good beer. I loved it. It was a Bloody Mary Pale Ale. I thought it was fantastic. And I got to use a lot of the stuff that we have here to make that beer.
Yeah.
And I also made a rosemary lemon wheat ale.
Okay.
Where I used rosemary that we grew on the farm as well for that. And then we even made a Saison, I believe, last summer with lemongrass and rose hips. And we grew some of those things here in the greenhouse so I could use them in the beer. So being able to incorporate like what we're doing on both aspects. I mean, let's take it another step. And with the pumpkin beer that I mentioned earlier, I got a bunch of spices in, whole spices, cracked them all by hand. And then our culinary specialist in our kitchen toasted all of them for me to like add an extra level of flavor to the beer.
Right.
So it's like working together with the kitchen and all of that. Like nothing's wasted here. I made a beer last year that I conditioned on Guajillo chili peppers.
Really?
I took the Guajillo chilies out. The kitchens used them and made a sauce out of them.
That's
so
awesome.
like everything that we do, we try and be sustainable. We're trying to like use it in other areas where you can add more flavor because now you use this. And it's just, it really like brings everything together. I think it's what sets us apart. I think it's what makes it special to like our consumers coming in is like, you're really getting a different experience. Everybody here is super passionate. I mean, if you can't hear it in my voice, I'm obviously not doing a good job right now. But we are so passionate about what we're doing, and beer and food and all of it. It's an experience. It's not just something you do. You don't just go and drink a beer. You're experiencing that beer. You're experiencing your meal. It's a journey. How did we get there? Why are we there? Where are we going? And that's what's really cool about it. And being able to grow our own hops, which we have, I believe, 600 plants, 2 different varieties.
Whoa.
They're looking pretty good right now, so I'm excited to get to play around with them. Being able to incorporate that into our beer, fresh herbs into the food, fresh herbs into the beer, all of that, it just really, it makes it so special. It really just does. Like,
what else can you say about that? You know, but while you're on a roll, Tony,
thanks.
Innovation is key in the ever-evolving world of craft brewing. Can you provide a sneak peek into any upcoming projects, collabs, or experimental brews in the pipeline?
Yeah, so one collab that I would like to mention, I have a friend who is also in the industry. He is a brewer at Wichita Brewing out in Kansas.
Okay.
His name's Cody. He likes to host events, host all things like that, little competitions. And he did a beer festival called the Festival of Dankness. And me and him got on the phone.
Okay.
Worked out a recipe together, and he brewed the beer over there for the festival. And he did that with about, I believe, like 15 or so other breweries. And we won the People's Choice for the beer.
Nice.
So now they're brewing a beer. Probably, I think it's like next week they're supposed to be brewing it. It's the scale up version, and it's going to be a West Coast IPA, but it has, I believe we put peaches and mango in it. It's from what he said, it was really good. Obviously, I didn't get to try it not being out there, but that's a collab we got coming up. Unfortunately, you got to go out to Wichita to get it. But that's one that we're doing, which is really cool. It's nice to collaborate with other people in the industry. I have a Snowshoe is another one that we're working
I'm from
on.
West Virginia, so that's awesome.
So Snowshoe, it's Old Spruce. They came out here and we brewed a beer called Beach Please. So we're working on doing one with them over at their brewery at Snowshoe. Which should be pretty cool. Right now, the ideas we're throwing around are somewhere in the black IPA category,
right?
With some cool hops. I'm going to keep under wraps for the time being, but it should be a pretty neat beer when it's all said and done. And a beer I'm very, very excited for. If anyone's listening to this that knows us, knows our beer, we typically release a barrel-aged beer.
Yeah.
We're not doing that this year. But our holiday beer for this year,
sneak peek,
which I'm very excited about, is a blonde stout.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with a blonde stout, it looks like a blonde ale, but it has the body, the mouthfeel, and like the flavors of a stout.
All right.
So it's a mind-bending beer. It's pretty nuts. We're going to be conditioning it on French vanilla coffee.
Oh, wow.
Cacao.
Okay.
As well as Madagascar vanilla, which if you don't know what Madagascar vanilla is, it's like the best you can get.
Yeah.
And this is the best part. This is the part I like the most.
Okay.
The name of the beer?
Yeah.
Festivus for the rest of us. I don't know if anyone out there is a Seinfeld fan, but if you are,
I totally am.
Great name for a beer. So you're going to want to check that out. I believe we're releasing that on November 3rd.
Yeah.
And another beer I have coming out is a beer that we brewed last year, changed it up a little bit. It was a collaboration with Heliotrope Brewing.
Right.
They're from Lexington, Virginia. Good friends of ours, great brewers. It is called Big Bad Leroy Brown.
These names are so great.
It is a full batch this year.
Yeah. 10
barrels. It's going to be in bottles. It is perfect for the fall. Releasing on the 22nd of September.
Right.
Perfect for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Sweet potato, cinnamon, vanilla, maple, brown ale, 7.5% or 7%. Sorry, 7%.
7%.
But check those beers out. They're going to be great. And Throat Latch, West Coast IPA, Imperial, 8.5%. Has not been out in a while. Updated recipe. Not going to want to miss that one. Friday the 13th, October 13th, that beer is hitting the taps, bottles out, and there may be maybe oyster shots with a shot of the Throat Latch that day as well. So definitely check that stuff out.
That's good. Before we hand it back over to Craig, I just have to ask, is there some significance in the Festival of Dankness? What in the heck is
So yeah, that's a good question.
Don't know what's happening here right
West
now.
Coast IPAs, and like we call them dank.
Okay.
So just a little information. Hops are the same family as cannabis.
Ah.
Very different.
Okay.
But they're the same family. So
Right.
both have similar oils, like they both have terpenes, but
Yeah.
they do very different things.
I see.
Now, there is a relaxing quality to hops. If you've ever had sleepy time tea, flip it over, look at the ingredients. There's hops in that tea because they do have a relaxing effect. But
Okay.
hops give you flavor, aroma, and all of that. But you have some that are very, as we say, dank because they have almost that skunky aroma to them. So the Festival of
see.
Dankness is a festival of all of those dank West Coasty IPAs.
All right. Now
The
it's
old
all
school stuff.
That's right. And it's all coming together now. Okay. Okay. Craig, for you, my question is, given your journey and experiences building this business, what advice would you give to those who are considering venturing into the world of craft brewing and hospitality?
Well, first of all, let's just say cheers to you for wanting to do it. But make sure that what you're really jumping into is a business.
Yeah.
Because so many people confuse it with it's a hobby.
Right.
I make this really great biscuit at home, and I have these great dinner parties, and I catered my girlfriend's baby shower, and I'm a caterer. Well, you probably ought to do a little more homework before you jump into that world, because it's not what you think it is. Mm-hmm. And being prepared is 90% of it. So just because you think you're good at something, that's just 1/10 of what you're going to experience running a business. Mm-hmm. So if you can master your product, yep, that's where you start.
Yeah.
But now you've got to apply all these other aspects of running a business: human resources, your physical plant, your operations, your employee benefit packages. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. You just don't start off running a business and having success. And people will say, well, how many years did it take you to do a return on investment? And, your banks will have one answer, and I'll have a different one. and my different one is that if you can't turn a profit in the first 3 months, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Oh, well, everybody says I made this great beer. Well, maybe you should get a job and work in a brewery for a while. Maybe you should go work in a winery. Follow your passion. Don't let me stop you. But do your homework. Really dig deep into everything there is. The government is very good at helping you. I would advise you to reach out to your economic development offices. That's a terrific place to start. If you don't have those available in your small town or small community, go to the federal government and do the same thing. Ask the question, where do I go? It's probably going to be a USDA office, and you say, what? USDA, isn't that farming? USDA offices will be found in every community across the United States, because that is your easiest conduit to the federal government, and so that's where you start. That would be my recommendation, but do your homework. And when you get done doing your homework, do some more, and then sleep on it for a month or two, and then really dive into it, because it is not as easy as you think. And the post-COVID economy has definitely changed what was just so normal 3 years ago, that normal is not normal anymore. We're all relearning new things, and those windows of American dream are definitely there. And don't ever let anybody tell you to stop.
Amen.
But make sure you do your homework.
I like that. You've done a great and fabulous job here. There's more in store, I'm sure, in your future. And along the way, you've gained recognition on multiple fronts. Craig, what do you believe lies ahead for the brewery, and how do you envision its continued growth in the years to come?
An interesting story, and to expand on that question, is we were invited to North Carolina, and we met with the former Commerce Secretary. And,
that's cool.
We were solicited to put a Stablecraft somewhere in the Raleigh area.
My son lives in Durham. That sounds great.
Yep. And the more we looked, the more it got scared, because it's not easy. That's quite a distance between two locations. I think Stablecraft's future is step by step. And I think the cider business, we're going to see that spin off and become its own brand soon. I think that Stablecraft has opportunities close by. And over the years, we've made custom beers for different resorts and different restaurant outfits, not just a single place. And I see that the staff is very hungry to grow to the next level. And so we're going to see several of our staff people taking the reins probably soon.
That's great. I love that. The next generation coming up in business. Well, as we wrap up here, how best can the Laughers stay updated with the latest at Stablecraft Brewing on social media or otherwise?
So,
Tony the beer guy, breaking it down.
give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, the app formerly known as Twitter. You can follow me, Tony the beer guy, as well on Instagram. If you give me a follow, just know coming this fall, there are going to be cooking videos with Stablecraft beer and how to do pairings with them.
That's awesome.
Tony the beer guy. Don't forget.
I love it. Thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the show, Craig and Tony. And thank you for being with us, Grace. We really appreciate you too. This has been super fun and entertaining, chatting up all things Stablecraft Brewing with both of you today. I love all that you guys do and offer here. This has been super amazing. Thanks again so much.
Thanks for having us. This was awesome. I love talking about beer. I love talking in general, if you can't tell. So this has been great. Anytime you want to chat beer, anytime anyone wants to chat beer, you know where to find me, here at Stablecraft.
I'm still eating the popcorn. Really great day today. Thanks for coming out.
Yes, it's been so fun being here. And Laughers, you too can experience this farm brewery and farm cidery nestled in the Shenandoah Valley, serving handcrafted beer, cider, sodas, and a variety of wines. Enjoy their family-friendly atmosphere, outdoor bar, on-site lodging, and private event spaces. For more information and details, simply visit stablecraftbrewing.com. And remember, do take advantage of the discount at preposterous.com and use promo code LAUGH15 today so that you can munch on it when you join me on next week's episode. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring one to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and until next time, cheers.